Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins is one of the weirdest games I've ever played because there are so many things wrong with it, but still the combat and the progression system are just so fun that I just forgot about everything that was bad about the game. So let's talk about it. So let's go on a little journey first. The game was unveiled, and everyone was talking about how your man Jack had to kill Chaos, and how all the characters looked like they were wearing clothes from H&M, which is definitely true. It was strange. But then they released a demo, and I played the demo, and the demo was so fun, and the part that sold me was all the great Final Fantasy enemies are there, and you can absorb some of their attacks. So when I found a Cactuar, I was like, he's gonna be difficult. I then needed 1,000 needles, and I pressed circle, I absorbed it, and I sent it back towards him, and I was like, fuck you, you're dying. And that's for every single time that you killed me in every single other Final Fantasy game, and all I wanted was the loads of XP, and I finally got it, and when you kill them you get loads of XP, and then I was like, this game is amazing. So then I couldn't wait for it. They released a second demo, which Square Enix are really cool because a lot of their games have demos that you can then transfer your save file over from the demo to the main game, which is just great. We have to commend them for it. It's just brilliant. But then the game came out and I got a code for it. And I played like 2.5 hours of the demo and I was like, yes, I'm 100% buying this game with or without a code. I can't wait to play this game. The story is useless. Absolutely useless. Near the end of it, I decided to actually just skip the cutscenes. But for the first 3/4 of the game, I watched the cutscenes because when I'm reviewing a game, I generally like to at least experience the story. But for this game, I didn't care. And the best thing about the story is that Jack, the main character, doesn't care about it either.
What? Need something for that?
It's just a scratch. Nothing a little spit can't heal.
So the game is extremely vague, and there's like some weird stuff going on with time travel or something like that. I didn't really understand it because obviously, as I said, I skipped a lot of it. But anytime like one of the bosses is gonna give some background or exposition or something, Jack's just like, I don't care. He just goes up and punches them, and then the boss fight starts.
I don't give a fuck who you are.
And I think the developers were self-aware because a lot of JRPGs have really like campy stories that no one really cares about and they take themselves too serious. But it seems like the developers were like, look, a lot of people don't really care about these stories. So what happens if we make the character not care about the story either? And what happens if we just make the story so ridiculous, the dialogue so bad, the voice acting just completely cheesy? Will it make it entertaining? And the answer to that question is a resounding yes. Even though, as I said, I skipped like the final third because I wanted to get through the game, I just wanted to play it. Each cutscene was like ridiculously entertaining just because of how cheesy and just weird it was. And if you're into that sort of JRPG cheesiness, this is just the epitome of it. It's very entertaining. So anyway, Jack and his mates want to go off and kill Chaos. Fair enough. I don't want to make that joke too much in this video because it's completely overplayed, but yes, he wants to kill Chaos. That's all he cares about. And at some point in the story, as I was saying, it's so self-aware. When the characters are talking in the levels, one of them starts like, oh Jack, what do you want to do? Let me guess, do you want to kill Chaos? And they make a joke about it, so the developers definitely knew what they were doing, and it works really well. And to be honest, in a game like this, I don't want the story. One of From Software's strongest points in my eyes is that the story never gets in the way. You're just giving an amazing combat system, and just there you go. If you want to experience the story, you can. You can read item descriptions, but we're never going to put it in your way, and that's exactly what Strangers of Paradise does too. It's not done in the same way with item descriptions, etc., but it's just, there's a cutscene at the start and the end, but they're never too long and never really outstay their welcome, so they did a really good job there. Now, we're going to talk about more bad. This game, at best, looks like an early PS4 game. Nothing really wrong with it, to be honest. There's parts where it's like really bloomy, and it's actually kind of hard to look at, especially with HDR on. I had to like really adjust the settings, and then other parts is like really dark. But in general, some of the character models look good in the pre-rendered cutscene, but during the in-game cutscenes, the character's literally like, and yes, and we're gonna talk like this, and it's really like it's terrible. It's like I was on streaming it, and I was just laughing at how bad it was. But you know, that aside, the graphics are just okay. The character models can be good, and the enemy models are really good because, of course, it's Final Fantasy. The enemies have to look good, and they always do, and fighting the enemies is just great. But on a technical standpoint, the graphics don't look great. And then also there are some frame drops, especially when there's like two Marlboros and you're fighting them and their tentacles are going everywhere. It's the frame rate really tanks them when you're fighting certain bosses. Some of their moves tank the frame rate, which is a shame, but it didn't really get in my way all too much. But then we have to talk about the music, and this is where the game starts to get good. So a lot of the tracks are like remixed versions of classic Final Fantasy music, and I loved it. And at some points during the levels, the characters start humming some of the music, and people are like, wait, how do you know that song? And then, oh, it's a classic, everyone knows it. And it's just that self-awareness, and it's funny. I enjoyed that part of it.
Hey, Jack. When did you teach Sarah that song?
It's a classic. Everyone knows it.
But the music is great. Look, it's Final Fantasy. If you have bad music in a Final Fantasy game, then you're doing something wrong. But the level design is extremely bland. Some levels are like straight corridors. Other levels are so labyrinthian and have no maps that they're kind of hard to navigate. But now it's time to talk about the good parts of the game. And the good parts are so good that I can excuse absolutely everything that the game does wrong. So we'll start with the basics. You have a heavy light attack, a dodge. It's similar to Neo, but where the combat system shines is the job system. Everybody loves jobs in Final Fantasy. It's like one of the mainstays of the whole franchise. And some of the jobs are iconic, like the Black Mage, the White Mage. I love mages, Red Mage, the Monk, like they're iconic. The Dragoon, the list just keeps going on. And how this game implements progression is nothing short of phenomenal. So you start with the basic jobs. So you have a warrior, a mage, and then you have like a thief kind of class, but it's not called a thief. I forget the name of it, but it's like an agility based class. And as you kill enemies, you unlock skill points for these skill trees. So then you get these skill trees, and as you work your way down the mage tree, you'll learn new combos for your weapon, you'll learn new magic, you'll get stat buffs, etc. But then down the end of the mage tree, for argument's sake, there's the Black Mage, White Mage, Red Mage. You unlock all three of them, and then they're the advanced classes. And then in each one of them, so the White Mage, you might have two classes down the bottom, and don't quote me on this, but it could be like a Paladin, and then a Sage, or, you know, something like that. And then in the Black Mage, you'll have a Void Knight and some other magic-based class. And you have to work through all the trees to unlock all the classes, because certain expert classes, which is the next tier, require you to, say, fully max out the monk tree and then fully max out the red mage, and then you'll unlock like a hybrid. And each class is unique, and then once you unlock the final tier of classes, the game just gets bonkers. And you can switch them all out whenever you want. So my final build was a sage and an enchanter. So the sage had access to both white and black magic, and then the enchanter could enchant his weapon with any of the elements. And then the game just opens up, so you might have a water elemental, so then you'll imbue your weapon with lightning, and then you'll cast thunder at him, and you'll absolutely destroy them. Or then you'll fight a flan, you're like, alright, so magic is good against the flan, so I'll imbue my weapon with magic, and then I'll be able to kill him easy. And then there'll be ones that's like, oh, that's a skeleton, so I'll imbue my weapon with holy. And once I got into the loop of leveling up all the classes, I was just absolutely hooked. I've unlocked all the jobs. I'm actually thinking of platinuming this game. There is a final difficulty that I haven't tried yet, but the game potentially might be a bit unbalanced, so I'm not sure how hard it will be. But I'm definitely getting all the trophies bar to complete the game on chaos difficulty. And like, that was me talking about 2 classes. Off the top of my head, I don't know how many classes there are, but they're like easily 15 or 20. And you can switch them out on the fly, and you can equip 2 at any moment, and you can switch between them in combat by pressing triangle. And it's worth your while going through all the classes, because you unlock loads of different combos for weapons that can be carried over to a different class. If you play as a samurai and you're learning loads of abilities for your katana, some of them can then transfer over when you're being the enchanter and using the katana. And then all the combos, you can have so many different combos. So there's an R1, R1, R2. There's an R1, R2, an R1, 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 R2. There's a charged R1, R2, and you can equip different skills to each one of these combos. And at some point you can have like 6 different combos going at once. And it's just so fun. Like, I can't explain any more than it's just simply fun. And then on top of that, there's a whole magic system, and the magic system is just great because it's a wheel, and you can charge up, so you can go like haste Ga, or Fire-Aga, Fire-Raja, and you just charge it up, and the longer you wait, the stronger the spell is. And then once you get into the boss fights, they all have a gimmick, like they might be weak to a certain type of magic, or a certain part of their body you might want to hit more, or something like that. And the bosses can be difficult, but don't be expecting this game to be Dark Souls, because it's not Dark Souls, it's not even Neo. It's more like a Devil May Cry action RPG, where there is a bit of challenge. Like, you will die, and you'll probably die a good bit, especially on some of the bosses. But like, it's not the same level of challenge as the Dark Souls, which I was actually really happy about because I just came off playing Elden Ring. I didn't want to play something that was like super difficult. Now watch me eat my words when I try the Chaos run, but like, the game isn't extremely hard, and I liked it. So we've only talked about the classes in the progression. So as you go through the class, you also unlock these special abilities, and one of them might be Venom, so then you imbue your weapon with poison, or Divine Strikes, which will imbue your weapon with magic, or you might get something called like Heavy Hitter, and then once you equip it, you then start doing more damage. And everything is done off like an action bar, like think of ATB. So you start and you'll have 2 notches on your ATB, but as you go through and like parry attacks, you do finishing moves, your action bar slowly goes up, and then by the end of the level you could have 6 different actions, which is great obviously when you reach the boss and you need to cast all these spells and use all these abilities. And then you do have like a stamina bar as well, but the only thing the stamina uses is for blocking. So if you press circle, you can absorb an attack, or you can parry an attack, and there's certain attacks that aren't parryable and then you have to dodge them. The game is just so much faster because dodging isn't attached to a stamina bar. You can dodge as much as you want. Your stamina just won't regen, but you won't use your stamina. So it's really fast. And then I haven't even talked about the loot, because this game has a lot of loot. If you've ever played Neo or Neo 2, I've never played Neo 2, but I've played Neo. Enemies just drop loot all the time, and if you know me, I love loot, I love action RPGs, so it's just all seeing all them numbers and everything, it's just like crack to me. But enemies literally just spew loot everywhere. Like, you're gonna get a lot of loot and you have to dismantle it. But there's so many different weapon types, I couldn't tell you the exact amount, but I'll put it up on the screen now. And eventually you just find your favorites. I love the maces that the mages would use, I love the katanas, and then also monks had claws and fists, and they're just really fast, and it's like you're playing Tifa from Final Fantasy VII. Like, you can have so many different abilities, like an uppercut or a double kick or like a big finisher combo, and it staggers enemies, and the combat is just extremely satisfying. And just add in a loot system. Now, the loot system can get overwhelming, but they do have just like an optimize equipment button, which is always great. And then I haven't even mentioned your party members, so you have a few party members to choose from, and each one of them can learn different jobs. Eventually I just had them all equipped with magic, so then they could heal me and put on haste and things like that, so they became very useful. So like, how you actually get into the missions as well is just like a world map, kind of exactly like Neo. And then there's these side missions, which are usually the mission played in reverse, and you get really good rewards for them, so they're definitely worth doing. There's also a trophy to do all the side missions, so I will be doing that. And then, to be honest, I don't really have much more to say about this game. It's just fun. Like, there's obviously so much wrong with it, but I just simply don't care, because it's just that fun. Like, there you go. The game is fun. I've heard from my friend Jardy that the PC performance isn't great, which, you know, doesn't surprise me, because the console performance isn't great, and Elden Ring's performance wasn't great, and we can just keep going on, but just keep that in mind. But I would highly recommend this game if you're looking for something fun. It's not the most challenging game, it definitely has its moments and difficulty, but it's just plain fun. Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins is a fun game, and that's the end of the video. I really appreciate you watching. Don't forget to subscribe, join the Discord down below, follow me on Twitter, all that good stuff. Subscribe, I'm not sure if I already said that, but I really appreciate your time, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.